between the Philippines and this classic production. And today is very exciting because we are especially honored to have with us the Tony Award-winning and Oscar-nominated composer of mammoth productions, such as Pirate Queen, Les Miserables, and of course, Miss Saigon. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a round of applause as we welcome on stage Mr. Claude Michel Schomburg.
Hindi naman kita, no?
Hello, sir. Welcome back to Manila.
Thank you.
Let's have a seat, shall we? How are you?
I was wondering, are you Coco Lawrence's niece?
Yes, that's right.
Because when I used to have dinner at Mr. and Miss Lawrence, there was always a little girl. She used to sing for me
Sir,
a little lullaby. Is it you?
Maybe.
Because I remember a tune doing da-da-da-da-da-da-da, da-dee-da-da-da.
Yes.
Is it you?
Yes.
Come here. Okay. Let's start.
All right. So you can imagine the excitement and the thrill today. So we're very, very happy to be here with you. It's a full circle moment for so many of us, and we have some questions that we'd love to ask you and hear your thoughts about. So I believe the last time you were here was in 1988. 88.
1988, it was the first time
Exactly.
I came here because we were going all around the world to look for a Kim, because at this time the Asian community didn't have a lot of entertainers. There was nobody in England, I mean nobody of the caliber of the lead girl of a show like Saigon. So we decided to go to New York, to San Francisco, Los Angeles, Hawaii, where there is a big Asian community, and to listen to them. And one night on the French television, I was still living in Paris in those days, they were advertising, tonight it's going to be the Nino Broca night.
Oh, okay.
I didn't even knew that there was a movie industry in the Philippines. So I look at the first movie, and of course it was a story about the revolution when they were all sitting in a circle around the fire, and one guy took a guitar and started to sing. And my God, I was struck by this voice, and I said, but who are those people? He looks like an Asian, and he's singing like Pavarotti. What that? I could not understand. So I watched all through the movie, and the soundtrack was beautiful and everything. And because it was a special night, comes the second movie. And again, I heard voices I never heard before. Beautiful singers, beautiful music. So after that, I rang Cameron and I say, frankly, we must go and see what's happening in the Philippines, because everything I see musically from the Philippines, it's amazing. And he called the guy who was running his office in Sydney, James Then, and he said, would you go to the Philippines to check what's happening in the show business? And he came here. The consul in Sydney gave him the name of somebody called Dong Alegre. And when he arrived here, he was totally flabbergasted. So he rang us and he said, "You better come here because it's a treasure island." And that's why we arrived in the Philippines, and I met you.
And when you came to the Philippines, what are some of the fond memories that you have here looking back in that in those very early years?
I remember the 2000 shoes of Imelda. They were still on display. And one guy with us was a very nice American journalist from a very important magazine, from Times Magazine. And somebody asked us, because it was a private visit of the palace, he said, "Did somebody already came here?" And he said, "Yes, me. I was invited by the Marcos last time I was here."
And now that we are having a resurgence of Miss Saigon seems to be a production that is very brave. It is introspective in that it has tried to evolve with the times, as with the audiences that come to see it. As a composer, what is that process like for you? And who makes that first call that, hey, we need to look at this? And where does it go from there?
So the original idea of Miss Saigon is quite, for me, it's simple. When I was young, I always wanted to be an opera composer. And I knew already when I was 6, 7, I knew already 3, 4 operas by heart. And one was Madame Butterfly. And later, after Les Miserables, I wanted to put on stage an updated version of Madame Butterfly. But I didn't know where and how. And one afternoon I was working on the score of Les Miserables because we were transferring from the original Theatre de Barbican to the Palace, who was going to be for the next 18 years the resident of Les Miserables. I was correcting because the stage is bigger, so you need more time to move the set, all that little bips and bobs that you have to do. And suddenly I broke up for a coffee and I was thumbing through a magazine, and I saw the picture of a little girl leaving her mother at Tan Son Nhut Airport in Saigon, because the mother, she had a love story with an ex-GI, and she had the little girl with the ex-GI. The ex-GI had to go, and she was looking for the father. It means a lot of researches and formalities, because she was sure that the future, the best, was for the daughter, was in the US and not in Vietnam. In the state, the country was at this moment. But she knew that the day she find the father, it would be the last day for her with her daughter, and she was at this stage, 11 years old. So she found the father, and she had to take after plenty of visa and passport problem, she had to take the daughter to the airport because she was boarding on a flight to the USA. And the photograph took the picture at the very moment when they say goodbye for the last time. And I look at it, and I was struck, but totally struck, because I thought that as a father, to see my little boy in front of me and being sure that I will not see him again was already a disaster. And as a child, to see my mother or my father and knowing that I'm saying goodbye and I will never see them again was beyond comprehension. Because in those days, people staying in Vietnam couldn't go abroad. It was just after the war, and it was the situation of the world. And I rang Alain Boublil and I told him, Alain, what's happening if we are changing the whole situation of Madame Butterfly from Japan to Vietnam during the last period of the war? And the young GI has a love story with a beautiful young girl, and they have a child. And we starting to rethink, to read the script of the opera. The opera, I knew it very well, but we started to do researches about Vietnam, and nothing that we are telling in the story, nothing is untrue. I mean, everything did happen. The guy had a helicopter watching his girlfriend stuck at the gate when he was supposed to take her with him. All the story of beyond young soldier GIs and young Vietnamese girl getting married, getting engaged, everything did happen. There is no one wrong story in all. Of course, we put them together, but each story, it's true, completely true. And I remember once we had, when we started to rehearse in New York, there was a delegation of GIs. They came to see the rehearsal, and one was telling us his story with a girlfriend he loved. And he told her, if I have to go back to America, I take you with me. But of course, he had to go. It was chaos, emergency, and he has to leave America, and he could never find the girl again. And it was 19 years since he was gone. And somebody in the company asked him, but if today you receive a phone call telling you that we found your girlfriend and she's living somewhere in the province of the Vietnam, what would you do? I say, 19 years after, I will take the first flight to Vietnam. I will take her with me and bring her back with me to the US, 19 years after. So it was, we were very, very, very moved. But it's all true story. It's all true story which is happening in Vietnam, in any war, which is happening today, I'm sure, in Palestine, Israeli, between Russian and Ukraine, all those terrible wars, there is that kind of stories always. And it's a pity to imagine that we still have to face that kind of situation. Because in '89, it was the fall of the USSR. Tell me if I'm too long.
Oh no, perfect. We're doing perfect time.
It was the fall of USSR, and we thought that tomorrow life will be wonderful in peace. And as a matter of fact, it's worse because it's more complicated. Before we had the bad one, the communist, the good one, the capitalist. And today we don't know. It's all mixed up. Because what did the American with the Middle East? And that's terrible because we learn nothing of nothing. When I watch the people running on the runway, trying to catch a plane, taking off in Kabul, for me that was I said, but my God, we learn nothing of nothing, and everything will be repeated years after years, conflicts, fights. And I think the best way to express our vision of the war, it's not to explain, giving a big lesson of history, of how did the Vietnam War arrive, how the 3 days of revolution in Paris did happen. We are just telling simple people's story. A boy and a girl, simple people in Paris, but all shattered by the wars. And that's the most important. So imagine today, you have millions of Palestinians, millions of Ukrainians dying, living in rubble because of a war, and that this war doesn't belong to them. So we don't manage to make the world better. And you know what to be and living in a chaotic country where you had colonization of American, Spanish, and Japanese. So I can't say it's a pessimist vision of the world, but if we can prove that there is still love there, and by love we can save the rest of humanity that we have in us, we will be more than happy. And that's why we are writing that kind of story, because even Les Mis or Miss Saigon tell you something that we would like to hear more often. Sorry, I was very long.
No apologies needed, but I think it was perfectly said to say that the story of Miss Saigon has transcended time, because unfortunately, whether we like it or not, it's a reality we see today. But it's a story of love and a story of hope. And I think that's why, in spite of the years that have passed and the generations that are coming and the new generations that we're seeing in Miss Saigon, it stands and it's relevant. And it's a story that we all need to hear and experience. And of course, one of the most beautiful parts, if not the most, is the music. And something we would love to know is, was it easy for you to come back to the world and music of Miss Saigon and create something new?
After the news, you mean?
Yes. And now, the new changes, like Ellen's song, for instance, coming back into the world.
No, but that's part of the job, because you don't write a musical. You rewrite a musical constantly. And the problem we had with Ellen for a long time, the original work of Puccini was a 4-act opera. And the third act was happening with the Consul of America in Nagasaki. She was in his office. Sorry. And she was talking to the consul about Pinkerton, the American guy was coming back. And of course, I don't know by which tricks they were using, but Butterfly, like in a very bad play, was behind a curtain, and she was listening to everything. And that's where she realized that Pinkerton, the love of her life, he was married. And it was very long,